Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to cover the morning and evening exercises that you'll be doing throughout the program. Now, when I say morning exercises, I'm talking about a set of practices you'll do right after you wake up, but before you get out of bed. And when I say evening exercises, I'm talking about a set of practices that you'll do just after you go to bed, but before you go to sleep. You'll be doing these every single day of the program, and hopefully beyond that. They're incredibly important exercises. You do not want to think of them as just extra things that you do during the day or evening, or as something that is in any way skippable. It's important that you do them exactly when I ask you to, which is upon waking and just prior to going to sleep, and that you do them every single day. Over the next few sessions, we're going to be increasingly adding to these until there's a nice cocktail of methods in your mornings and evenings. For this first session, you're going to be doing the exact same thing in the morning and evening, but that won't always be the case during the program. So let's look at your very first practice that you're going to put into your morning and evening exercises. It relates to the goal setting exercise that you did during the pre-week. You finished it, right? I hope so. But if not, it's no big deal. Just do it now. But you do have to complete it today because your first evening exercise has to occur tonight. As you'll hopefully recall, the primary outcome of that goal-setting exercise was whatever your overall goals are for the program on both the well-being and weight loss fronts. I suspect for most of you, that was a transition to fundamental well-being and to lose a specific amount of weight, or to change your relationship with food in a certain way, or to adopt more healthy eating habits, or whatever. So, let's take a look at an example, a specific example. Let's say your goals are to reach fundamental well-being and lose 10 pounds during the program. What you want to do is turn that outcome-oriented goal into a phrase. So that phrase might be something like, my goal is to achieve fundamental well-being and lose 10 pounds during this program. I know. I'm astonishingly creative. But seriously, it should just be something simple and straightforward like this. Now, there's a lot of different ways that you could say that, right? You could say to realize fundamental well-being instead of to achieve. You could say to reach fundamental well-being. You don't have to just copy what I say. Make sure that however you say it resonates with you. However you do it is perfectly fine. You don't have to write in and try to get us to check your goal phrase. Just use one that you feel best expresses the intent of your goal. That's the only thing that matters. With one caveat. In my initial example, I said that in the way that you would most probably likely say something right now, right? You'd probably begin it with my goal is, or I have a goal too, or something like that. I highly recommend that you do not use personal pronouns. So don't use I, don't use me, don't use we, don't use my. Avoid these types of pronouns. Instead, I'd like you to substitute something that's probably going to sound a little weird to you. This being. So it would sound something like this. This being's goal is to, or the goal of this being is, or something like that. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, what? This being? It's me. What are you talking about? Well, here's the deal. A lot of the things that we're doing in this course are to communicate in very specific ways to the many mental and brain processes that are going on inside you. Now, some of those will be very tightly identified with a notion like I or me or we or whatever. They'll be linked to some sort of personal pronoun. Others, however, will not be identified with that at all. You have all kinds of processes at an unconscious level that are happening that don't have those identity elements associated with them. We want to speak to the totality of all of the processes that are going on in your brain. And the best way to do that is not by phrasing things in a way that makes your brain think that it's only addressing some subset of those processes by using pronouns like I or me. So it's better to use a phrase like this being or something similar. When you use a phrase like this being, it encompasses everything, right? I is in there. Me is in there, we is in there, it's all in there, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's also included. Okay, so this being's goal is to achieve or realize or reach or transition to or whatever fundamental well-being and to lose 10 pounds during this program. Something like that would be perfectly fine. Now, what are you going to do with it? You're going to say that statement every time you wake up in the morning and every time you go to bed just before you go to sleep. It's that simple. Okay, maybe not that simple. The most simple level is you just repeating this in your mind and not saying it out loud. You can simply say it quietly to yourself in your own mind. And if you've got somebody sleeping next to you, maybe you have to do just that because they don't want to be disturbed for the next series of weeks as you're going through this process. Though, frankly, you should be doing these morning and evening exercises way beyond our time together because they are profoundly beneficial. Now, if you don't have someone sleeping beside you, or the person sleeping beside you is willing to be very accommodating to you, then I recommend adding in at least one, possibly two additional things to this exercise. The first thing that I recommend adding in is saying it out loud. This is such an incredibly powerful addition to this method. And you can, if you can, you should do this instead of saying it quietly in your own mind. The reason is because this engages much more of your brain, and that's what you want it to do. We want to engage as much of you in this exercise as we possibly can. For example, saying this out loud brings in the parts of your brain that relate to speaking and listening, but it actually goes far beyond that. So, saying it out loud is a way to take this exercise to the next level, to level 2. But it doesn't stop there. You can also take it to level 3 by writing it down. So in addition to saying it out loud each morning and evening, you can also write it down. If you're going to write it down, I recommend doing that first and then reading it. Adding reading and writing into the equation involves even more of your brain. It brings a whole new level of motor system planning and execution to move your fingers and your arm and so on. It also adds the eyes and the whole visual system, and a huge part of your brain is dedicated to vision. So it brings a great deal of that into the exercise as well. All of this makes it an even more holistic and powerful practice. So the most powerful form of this exercise is to write out your goal statement every morning upon waking and every night just after you go to bed, but before you go to sleep, and then read it out loud. Now, if you can't do that, it's no big deal. This is a very powerful exercise, even if you just go over it in your own mind quietly. But the more of these things that you can do, the more powerful and the more effective the exercise will be for you. Okay, that's it for the first practice that we're adding into your morning and evening exercise. In the next video, we'll look at the second one. I'll see you there.